Welcome to Fearlessly Made You. I am your host, Kristie Tobias. Joining me today are guests just striving to dominate in their personal and professional lives while answering the question, what does it mean to be fearlessly made? Welcome back. On this episode of Fearlessly Made You, I am excited because one of our beautiful partners, we have got a representation from our beautiful partner Dillard's here today. But before we get into that, just as a reminder for you guys, as you guys know, one of the things I love about Fearlessly Made You is where it started, which is from the book, Fearlessly Made You, and my journey with post-traumatic stress disorder. And so today we're going to share someone else's journey. As you guys know, I have recently partnered with Dillard's to style all of my fabulous outfits, but I thought it would be great for you guys to actually hear from the woman who was my inspiration, who really helped support what this partnership is, but also who has a beautiful story and journey herself. Reagan Pommier is here today with us. She's going to walk us through her journey. Reagan has worked at 5 different Dillard's stores in 4 different states. Right now, she is the Dillard's store manager here in Pensacola, Florida. But one of the things that's really cool about Reagan is her journey with leadership and her passion. She has a platform around purpose with passion, and that platform is really focused on helping engage and educate and support her associates, helping them rally behind community service and work, and really at the end of the day, just helping drive that purpose and driving that passion. So y'all know I could talk about Reagan all day, but there is no one better to talk about Reagan than Reagan herself. So Reagan, thank you for being on Fearlessly Made You.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So as y'all heard, there's such a beautiful story and journey. But one of the great things that I love about every single one of our guests, and Reagan is absolutely in that boat, is that there is so much that has happened to bring you to this point in your life. So I want you to take us back to the beginning. Tell us a little bit about who Reagan is,
Sure.
Where you came from, and how you got here.
All right. So I am originally from Louisiana, hence my name, Reagan Pommier. And I started there as a very young girl, right out of college. I was recruited by Dillard's. And much like Pensacola, it's one of the prominent retailers in the area. Yeah. So I had grown up in Dillard's. All my Easter dresses, any type of holiday, that's where the grandparents took us to be styled. And so when I was recruited to Dillard's, I worked for MAC Makeup. It was about the time that cosmetics was blowing up. It was becoming such a huge industry. And I went to college for business management. I had no clue that I would find myself at a makeup counter. So let me explain that. When I was working at MAC, I was learning how to give people self-confidence. I had worked in boutiques. I had worked in different finance departments and different things through college, but I had never had such an intimate conversation with someone before. And so working at MAC, I was working with burn victims. Mm-hmm. I was working with people who had strokes or seizures and now had a disability in performing the actual makeup on themselves. Yeah. And I was just kind of intimately working through these issues to try to help these individuals gain self-confidence back.
Absolutely.
And the experience was just so delicious. I don't know how else to describe it.
I love that,
That when I left, at the end of the day, I was like, that touched me. Yeah. That was such a wonderful day that touched me. Quickly after that, one of the store managers who is still in Dillard's, I saw that I was having these experiences and saw that I was really just drawn to that experience and recruited me to the Dillard side. And it's pretty much a quick story from there. I was a visual manager for a year, and I was given the opportunity to travel and to promote to an assistant store manager. So I started traveling through Tennessee and Kentucky and Florida and all these fun places. But the one thing that I knew is that if I was able to teach individuals how to have experiences that I had, that when I went home at the end of the day, I felt I was a better person. Yeah. I was a better daughter. I was a better friend because I was inspired by the work that I was doing, even on a small scale.
Absolutely.
I knew that if I got into a career like that, I would truly never work.
Yeah.
Now, if you've ever worked retail, it's not for the weak.
It's so true.
It
So
is
true.
very fast paced. It is ever changing, but it teaches resilience. It teaches empathy. There's so many wonderful things that the world of retail can do for our guests. And so I really just kind of saw a bigger picture at that time. 25, newly divorced, and just step out. I stepped out on a leap of faith, and I moved 8 hours away from everyone that I knew and loved, and left everything behind to take this journey. And I won't say that I didn't have tough times. There weren't times of really, doubt, just wondering if I made the right decision. But on a personal scale, what it provided me with was culture, just diversity, learning about so many different people and what they bring to the table. It opened me up as a human.
Yeah.
So I'm forever grateful that I stuck the path and kept going with it.
I love that because it brings about so many questions and so many things to unpack. But what I'm hearing, and for everyone listening, is there's that perseverance, there's that ability to stick with it. And so I almost want to kind of back up a little bit. You said something that I'm sure a lot of people relate to. As you were transitioning into this place of like, I'm going to own this journey, you were also transitioning personally. And so let's talk a little bit about that. You said you were kind of newly divorced, and I'm sure there are so many things going on in your life, like just leading up to that point. So tell us a little more about that.
I think everyone can relate to this at some age, and it's different for different people. You really kind of find yourself.
Yeah.
You thought you were this person, and you thought you wanted this career, and you thought you wanted this life, and something happens, and you just totally have a moment of just self-growth and self-awareness, and you're like, I actually don't want those things. That's not me. Maybe it's who I, was ingrained to be. Maybe it's who others taught me to be or wanted me to be. But I was 25 years old, and I had just went through a very, very easy and also sad, but not a toxic divorce by any means. It doesn't have to be that way, and it wasn't for me, so thankfully. But I just knew that I needed to find out who Reagan was.
Yep.
I have always lived my life at that time in Louisiana kind of for others and who others expected Reagan to be.
Yes, I think we can all relate to that place in our lives.
Yes. And I'm ashamed that it took me till 25, but I'm so happy that it did.
Yeah.
It took a life event to help me realize my happiness matters.
Yes.
What I want for my life matters.
Yes.
And it's really a exciting time when you figure out that no matter what age you are, you can reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
You can figure it out. You can go after something that's important to you. And if you stick with it, there's so many beautiful things that will transpire because of that perseverance.
I love the reinvent yourself no matter what age you're at, because at the end of the day, you are you.
Right.
And you are still that version of you, but you're having to kind of decide or determine, what does this next phase of me look like? Do you find, as you were talking through kind of your journey, and now I'm thinking about the journey you get to inspire in other people, do you find that other people that are kind of like in that similar journey, kind of you're finding similar conversations and things like that? Like, is that kind of happening with you now too?
All the time. And I think that is one of the most rewarding things. There's so many rewarding things I'll talk about, but that's one of the most rewarding things, is helping somebody figure out who they are and helping somebody figure out who they want to be. It's also hard because I'm a Leo, and I want to fix everything, and I want to help this person really get it. So sometimes it challenges me to step back and say, okay, Reagan, they have to figure this out. I'll give them the tools, but it is their decision. They have to figure it out. You're your own worst critic, and you're the only person who is going to determine your future and your legacy, which is my favorite word of 2022.
I love that. Legacy, yes.
Your legacy. If you pass tomorrow, what's it going to say? What are people going to say about you? Do you want them to say that you were a good store manager? And for me, unfortunately, that's not all I want to be in my story. And so that really kind of resonated with me, is, what do I want my legacy to be? What do you want your legacy to be? And it's really rewarding helping people figure out what that means for them.
That's so beautiful. So as you think about, whenever I think about the word legacy too, I think about, of course, the people around us, but the people that are close to our hearts, our
Hmm.
own families, or, the people that are watching
Hmm.
us. So do you find that, as you think about kind of where you were before, where you are now, and the people that were maybe still closely connected to you, family or, kind of personal life, do you find like that legacy piece of it is starting to stick with them?
How do you do this? Like, because this is not, we did not practice
We did
this.
not.
We did not practice this. My drive for legacy actually comes from my late grandmother. And so if you'll let me, I'll speak
Oh,
about her for a quick
please.
second because
Yes.
that's a huge inspiration.
Okay.
I come from a very long line of female entrepreneurs. My grandmother, she was the first female in Northeast Louisiana to break into the cotton industry. So
Wow.
she worked in the gins as a young lady for a number of years, and this was a very male-driven
Yep.
industry. And so she gained the trust of the farmers and opened up her own business as the first female in Northeast Louisiana to be a cotton broker, and had a very successful career. And that drives me.
Yeah.
In such a time where there was so much less opportunity to have strong people who you love dearly
Yep.
be models or mentors for you, that has always driven me to say, if somebody can do that, 80 years ago, with
Yep.
all the technological advances, with all the self-motivation we have today, with all the things, we can do it. We can do
Absolutely.
it.
Oh, okay. So, and again, none of this has been rehearsed by any means, but I love the story of your grandma because I think one of the things for me growing up, so I have a Jamaican background, and for anyone that knows anything about Jamaican women, or if you've ever been around Jamaican women, we are fierce to be reckoned with, but a lot of that comes from the background of our grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
My grandma moved to the States on her own
Mm-hmm.
to build a better life and, left her husband with their 7 children. And my mom was one of those 7
Yeah.
children so that she could kind of make this statement for herself.
Courage.
Exactly. And I think that is exactly, see, it's like we're right here.
We are.
That is exactly it. So it's the courage.
Yeah.
And I want to dive into that with you too, of there has to be days when you're just like, I cannot. And it takes courage to stand ourselves up. But
Yes.
let's talk about the days when it's like, I cannot. Like, let's talk about that a little bit.
That's a double-edged sword, because I think if you are somebody who truly wants to see good in others and do good in others, you may overextend yourself.
Yes. Yep.
2022, as I'm sure it's been for a lot of people, has been a huge year for self-reflection and self-care for myself. Just understanding boundaries and
Yes.
balance, and what's the right amount to give, and how much is too much,
Yeah.
because it can absorb you.
Absolutely.
You can be absorbed in somebody else's journey, and you don't.
Yes.
We don't. We want to be stepping stones, and we want to be encouragers, but we can't do it for other people. So
No, we
I think
cannot.
for me, it's a combination sometimes of physically and mentally, but more mentally. I think I want so much more for people sometimes than they want for themselves. And luckily, the group that I have here has really just rose to the challenge. And you've worked with some of these
Yes,
people,
I
so
have.
you have probably seen some of the really great qualities in them that I feel like I had a very small part in helping them find. It all
Absolutely.
comes from them. I just helped them realize that they could and they
Yeah.
will be able to do the things that they want to do. So
I love that piece because you're being honest and transparent about we do get to the place where we have overextended, but you have to role model for your team like what is right and what is not. And that balance is also part of that.
sure.
And when we talk about the Fearlessly Made You journey, I always talk about, what it means to not allow fear to drive you, but you really owning your journey even through fear or uncomfortable moments. So let's talk about those uncomfortable moments that you've been through throughout your journey. You've talked about that perseverance. You've talked about, staying the course. There had to have been so many uncomfortable moments to get there. So talk to us a little bit about that.
I think the key to that is communication, and it still happens in any business and any company. We're busy, and we have lots of moving things to juggle, and sometimes the communication falls short. you know what you're bringing to the table, and you know what your purpose is and your passion is, but sometimes it's not recognized.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes you have to platform yourself. Sometimes you have to speak up and say, look at all the great things I bring to the table if you need that recognition. And that comes from self-awareness too, knowing your needs and knowing what's going to motivate you. But there have been times, and still, where I'm heavily recruited by other companies, or I'm wondering, does everybody else put this effort in that I put in,
Yeah.
and does everybody want the same things as I want? But at the end of the day, it's not about anybody but me.
Yeah.
It's about the legacy I want to leave behind, staying true to myself, not trying to compete. I'm in a very competitive industry.
Yes,
I'm
you
a
are.
very competitive person. By nature, we like to be number one. But not letting that consume you or change you into somebody that you don't want to be. When I first started moving, I was very, very alone. I have always lived around my family. All of my family lives around my family. We have a big French, Louisiana loving culture and family that I come from, and to say goodbye to that and say goodbye to the idea of my friends who I also feel are my family, raising our children together, which I don't have any children, but one day. Just this idea of everything that I wanted, that was tough.
Yeah.
It still's tough.
Yeah.
I was in Louisiana last week, and I see this beautiful friendship that we all have, and I'm so appreciative to still be part of that, and I am still part of that because of effort. You have to put in effort. But, it is tough sometimes when you want both. Why can't we have it all? Why can't we raise our kids in one state and have a career in another? It's balance.
Yeah.
And it's just truly believing in your mission. I know that what I'm doing at Dillard's with the people that I have, putting purpose behind fashion, I know that it's going to empower me, and it's going to help make the best version of me for my friends, for my family, for my future children, hopefully. And you have to just remind yourself that your struggles turn you into who you are. You have to own them. You know this. You have to own them. You have to accept them gracefully. And you have to let it drive you to be better, to want more.
Yeah.
So
I love that you say that your struggles turn you into who you are, because I think there's also a journey that, before this we were just talking about, what does that look like right now versus, or what did it look like previously as far as your journey, the journey with Dillard's, previously as to what it looks like now. And you've been part of a lot of that transition, a lot of that transitioning from the struggle to this place of beauty. And so I think there's something so powerful and valuable in some of that. And with your passion, with the fashion, the focus, the purpose, I would love to kind of hear from you some of the ways that you've been able to innovate and create in this industry that has changed a lot. The retail industry, as you talked about, is vastly different now than it used to be.
It's tough.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the tough. Let's talk about some of those things you've been able to do.
For Pensacola specifically, I feel like we had a big opportunity to just change the livelihood in the store, to bring passion and excitement back to the store. I came to Pensacola 5 months before the pandemic happened. So my journey, much like others, was out of my control.
Yep.
And so we came in and we instilled a lot of really amazing things that we thought would really help our team be happy and have a great selling culture. But as the pandemic has done for so many people, I think purpose is the word. People want to extend themselves more. And it's such a beautiful thing that such a terrible and devastating virus, such a beautiful thing that can come from that is people just really getting involved and wanting to do more and be part of something that hits home and hits here.
Yeah.
And so for 2021, we had done a lot of wonderful things, and the store was in a really stable place. And so it's actually through Madrina Ciano. So if you're in Pensacola, you know of Madrina Ciano.
Yep. She was on one of our episodes and is responsible for the relationship that Reagan and I have, which we appreciate you, Madrina. Thank you, girl.
Absolutely. We were getting ready to do a fashion show, and she was just kind of telling me a little bit about herself, that she sat on all these boards, and this was her full-time commitment to making a difference and making a change. And I said, wow, that's so inspiring. I have 136 people that work for me. And one of the things that came to be in 2021 was I don't know what they're passionate about outside of work.
Yeah.
And I think so many people in leadership positions, they care about the now, they care about the business, they care about the number. If you're not invested into your people, you have nothing.
Yeah.
And so for me, I wanted to do some things that were near and dear to my heart and partner with different nonprofits in hopes of continuing to get exposure for our store, but being able to create a sense of pride for our associates. What our associates do at Dillard's is we sell self confidence, we sell moments, we sell mental health, and no one should ever look at somebody who works in retail and say, "Oh, they're just a retail clerk."
Yeah.
It is, as we discussed, not an easy job.
Not at all.
You know, and we really wanted to provide them with a sense of the work that you're doing is impactful, and we can do so much more as a company. One of the things that really keeps me loyal to Dillard's is the fact that it's still family owned.
Yes.
If I worked for a corporation, I would have never been able to have the freedom to open a sensory room, as we're going to talk about, in our
Yes.
store, or to, have this freedom to go out to nonprofits and partner and put ourselves out there in the way that I wanted us to be, which always is going to align with what Dillard's wants. But there's so much freedom in being family owned, and I think that that's one thing that inspires me. But from 21 to 22, our associates now have a sense of pride. We work with Ronald McDonald, we work with St. Jude's, we work with Rally, we work with The Secret Place, the Nisi Project, Make-A-Wish. There's so many nonprofits that we've been educated on.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big piece of it too. Inspiring somebody to be educated on something that may be uncomfortable for them.
Absolutely.
Or maybe something that they never knew about.
Yes.
That's the piece of it for me, is just really educating and inspiring our associates to want to be better people, because that word legacy is not going to come from me being a dealer store manager.
No.
It's going to come from me helping inspire people to be more and to do more.
I don't know about y'all, but I'm getting a little chills at the back of my neck, which is, y'all know the signs of just powerfulness. And I think that, Reagan, is what you represent. There's this powerfulness in you because you said from the beginning you wanted to stay true to yourself and stay true to your legacy. And you've done that in an environment that could have shifted you in another direction. But you've been able to be part of, like you said, this family environment. You've been able to really help create and innovate and build out this platform for others to also be true to themselves. I think there's so much beauty in that. But the other part of that too is I'm always asking the question, I think this goes really well with kind of the work that you've been doing from a mentorship perspective is, so as you're thinking about that journey, as you're continuing on these next steps of building out your legacy, how do we cascade that to others? What are some of the tips and feedback as someone is listening and they're like, yes, like I hear her journey, I'm on it, but I need some help. What are the things that you want to cascade to others?
I think a big piece of this is understanding that this takes time.
Yes.
This doesn't happen overnight. You have to put in the work because trust has to be built.
Yep.
People work very hard to build community. They work very hard to build awareness and education around really intimate programs, abuse or different things. You have to be trustworthy to be let in. People have to know that your heart and your mind aligns with their views.
Yep.
And I think you do that by proving yourself. You
Yeah.
do that by staying the course, persevering, being composed. That's another really good word.
Yes.
Being composed,
Yes.
not letting it get the best of you.
Yep.
But you have to put in the work, and people have to know that it's genuine.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting as you mentioned, like that being composed, because I think the other part that's happening right now, especially, is people don't know how to people. And so there are spaces where there's a lot of unrest or some mental health things. And I think we have to be honest and acknowledge, like, as you're on this journey, it is tough, it is hard, it's going to challenge you now so more than ever. You're going to be in this space of uncomfortableness. And that I love that word compose, because it's not saying that you're supposed to be perfect.
No.
It's saying pay attention and own
Yes.
how you're showing up, which I think you do so beautifully. But I think you encourage and inspire your team to do so beautifully, which I love. So as you think about, though, your continued journey, what's next? What are those next steps that you're continuing to focus on?
Right now, just continuing to grow this store. I think the next step professionally for me would be a district manager assistant. I would be
Yes.
over 30 stores to
Oh,
be able to share and hopefully inspire. But I want to redirect and talk about this because I think it ties into what you're
yes,
asking.
beautiful.
We were able to, with my district manager's permission, put in a sensory room. So
Yes.
for those of you who do not know what a sensory room is, there are times when adults or children who are on the spectrum cannot come into a department store. It is overstimulating, there's too many people, there's too much lights
Yeah.
and music. And so there's a large group of our community who doesn't get to have those just experience that we take for granted so often. And Madrina and Mallory Studer inspired me after meeting with Autism Pensacola to provide a safe space for shoppers to be able to take someone when they need that moment of composure, when they need to digress and just have a moment, you know. And so the district supported that and we implemented it in our store. We now have what we call the quiet room,
I
and it's
love it.
upstairs
Yeah.
beside children's, and there's all kinds of sensory things in there. And it's also a nursing room as well for nursing mothers to just have a safe space to go and to decompress. When we launched this, we also launched Sensory Saturday. So one Saturday a month, we have the music down low, the lights very dim to create that welcoming space. And I told our associates, if we just have one person that shows up, it'll be worth it. If we
Absolutely.
just touch one family, you know, and we just are able to support one group, you
Yeah.
know, then it's worth it. And there were a lot of people who showed up. The quiet room has been used so much. But the big piece of it is that it inspired the district.
Mhm.
So we were on a conference call a couple of weeks ago, and my district goes all the way from Nashville, all through Georgia, all through Alabama to the Panhandle, because of the heart that the team put into. Because all of my associates made this room. Reagan didn't do it. Our associates donated. They brought books. They brought things. It was a really beautiful team effort because of the heart and what it means to our community for Dillards to be able to have this safe space. The district has now challenged all of these stores to put one in.
Love that.
So I think that when you are trying to do something bigger than you, that's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
You know, it's not about just doing it here. It's about creating knowledge and empowerment everywhere else, and
Yes.
take it as flattery.
Yes.
You know, it's not competition when somebody wants to do something that you're doing well. It is pure flattery, and embrace it, support it, because that's the legacy piece of it. What do you want to be known for?
Yes.
I want to be known for somebody who created positive change, who cultivated inclusion and diversity, and who made the workplace better.
I love it. I think, Reagan, I couldn't have said it better myself. That's exactly it. That is staying true to your legacy. That is the way that we really cascade change and impact. And I think you've shared your story so beautifully and so honestly. And I know everyone that's part of the Fearlessly Made You crew appreciates not only your story, but this ability for you to set the stage for others to talk about their journey, to partner and do things bigger than themselves, but knowing that there's a journey to being able to do that, and connecting and collaborating across the community is one of the best ways to do that.
Yes.
So I thank you
Yes.
so much for being on Fearlessly Made You. And of course, what better time than now to say thank you for the partnership that we have with Dillard's. As I've talked with you guys about before, the styling is, of course, fabulous, but it's more than that. There is heart and passion in every connecting point that we have on Fearlessly Made You, and Reagan has really shared that so beautifully, and so grateful that we're part of each other's story and part of each other's journeys. And as always, friends, please make sure that you stay tuned to the next episode of Fearlessly Made You.